We are just days away from a new Liberal leader and, by extension, a new Canadian Prime Minister. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Lorrie Goldstein and Brian Lilley. Okay, Lorrie, it's a bizarre leadership race for the Liberals because it's right in the middle of arguably one of Canada's most significant economic crises that we've had. Parliament is not sitting, but whomever becomes the next Liberal leader will automatically become our Prime Minister. It's looking like Mark Carney has it all sewn up. He's getting all the endorsements from caucus. He's getting all the cabinet endorsements. He's looked at, I think, by many Liberals as the guy who can shepherd the ship in a forward direction that could lead to some sort of success. But all of this is happening, as I said, at the time of a massive economic crisis. And Mark Carney wants to put on a tariff tax on Canadians. So it's just more of the same.
Oh yeah, that's the carbon adjustment. Um, on that specific issue, Mr. Carney has not killed carbon taxes. The bigger carbon tax is the industrial carbon tax, which is hidden, and it's basically a cap and trade system. And along in the advocacy of that kind of regime, there's long been the problem of, well, if you have carbon taxes and other countries don't, other countries will our businesses will move away from our country to others. So the argument is no, you put a tax on goods coming in from other countries, right? You put a tariff on other countries because their climate regime isn't as good as ours. What does that mean? It means prices go up in Canada. All Carney is doing is he's making the one he wants to kill, the consumer fuel tax, which was at least out in the open. That was their problem. You know, the government had charts. Well, it's going to raise gas, it's going to raise this, it's going to raise that, right? People saw it, and there were rebates. We've all talked about the rebates. Having said that, there aren't any rebates in this one. This is like every time you buy something, the government's going to decide whether you deserve a partial rebate. It's absurd. But to me, what Carney, and this is my column today, what Carney is doing in what's going on in these meetings and speeches that they're giving right now, it's irrelevant. The game is on within the government and negotiating, right? So what's Carney doing? Let's go how much he is. Now he's an outsider, but the things that he disagrees with that were Liberal policy 3 weeks ago, the carbon tax, the consumer thing, gone. The capital gains issue, he opposes it now. So does Poilievre. The carbon tax, they're on the same. Poilievre, the federal government blew immigration. It blew the deficit and debt. It didn't pay attention while life was becoming unaffordable for Canadians. We need a tax cut so Canadians can get through this. Those are now the exact same positions of Carney. And it's obviously deliberate. What they're trying to do is say, look, we know you didn't like Trudeau, he's gone. You know, you hated the carbon tax, it's gone. Well, it's not really gone, but we're going to tell you it's gone. And on all those other issues, Carney is saying, look, I hear you. I'm cognizant of all these things. He doesn't say how he's going to fix any of them, but he does say, so what they're trying to do is remove and see, Carney can do this. Freeland can't. Whether he's an outsider or not, he wasn't in the government, right? Mm-hmm. When Freeland does it, it sounds hollow. You were his finance minister. You were his deputy prime minister. You supported all these things that you are now saying you're against. There's just no credibility there. So frankly, what the Liberals are doing, to me, it's strategically smart. But it is strange, isn't it? It's like we have this dog and pony show going on with the candidates going all over the place and saying whatever they do, basically denouncing the Liberal record for 9 years, right? And then vote for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, certainly, Brian, we're seeing some polls the gap closing, certainly. I mean, the Conservatives at some point have seen over 20-point lead, but and it's getting closer on a national scale. Still, a big majority for the Conservatives for election were to be held today. But there are some other names that remain in this race: Ruby Dalla, Karina Gould, and Chrystia Freeland.
Frank
But
Baylis.
all of right. But all the oxygen in the room seems to be going towards Mark Carney. And I'm wondering your perspective on the others trying to punch through what's going on.
Look, in the media landscape, we're not the voters. Well, most of us aren't. But then, they've got to speak to Liberal members. So every day, people who have registered as a Liberal, registered to vote, are getting emails and text messages from the different camps saying, hey, I'm here. I'm the reason that you should be doing this. The media definitely has put all their focus on Mark Carney. Leger poll out recently said that 50% of people who vote Liberal would prefer him as leader, compared to 17% for Freeland, 4% for Karina Gould. That poll did not show a big closing of the gap. I think even with Carney and Freeland in there, it was the Liberals were still at 24, 25%. The latest Ipsos poll does show a closing of the gap, but Liberals shouldn't celebrate that because it's still 13 points. Ipsos has the Conservatives at 41%, the Liberals at 28%. Once Carney starts getting media attention and questions, hopefully he gets questions, real questions about his policy, Canadians might look at what Lorrie's just described and say, that doesn't sound better. That sounds maybe even worse than what we were doing before. A carbon border adjustment is a tariff on everything we import from the US, China, and Mexico, because none of them have a carbon policy good enough for carbon tax Carney. So we're freaking out about tariffs being imposed by the United States. Can you imagine what the Americans would do? I mean, specifically with Donald Trump, but you could swap Trump out for any Democrat. And we put a tariff on everything coming into Canada because your climate plan's not good enough. Imagine the retaliation.
It's crazy. Okay, I just need a quick one from both of you on this. Let's game this out, so to speak. There's going to be a new Liberal leader and prime minister in just a few weeks, and at the beginning of March. And then the House is supposed to return because we have to, pay for government services. The money's going to run out. Lorrie, let's just say it's Carney. I think I'm pretty accurate. It's going to be. What does he do? Does he recall the parliament? He won't have a seat, obviously, but he will be prime minister. Or do we go to an election? That's what Canadians want to know.
I think the Liberals will look at their polling numbers, and if it looks like they've got a shot, and that means in an election you can have a shot when you're 7, 8, 9 points behind, right? Mm-hmm. Then I think they're going to go. They're going to go hard. If the numbers start to turn on them, well, then anything could happen. You could try to make a deal with the notorious Jagmeet Singh. This is the wrong time to have this. We have to have a stable government. We have to start getting out this money to workers who are, going to be. You can do that play, but if they look like they've got a shot, then they'll go. If they look like these numbers aren't good, then they'll do everything to prevent going. Because technically they've got till October 2020, whatever it is. They got October to call an election. I would make just one final observation. You remember when Justin Trudeau, at the height of all this, everybody's saying you got to go, and he gives this speech about the Americans have again refused to elect a female president. Okay, Mr. Trudeau, your party has never elected a Liberal leader. Every other party in Canada has had a female leader, either as the leader or an interim leader. And it looks like your party is not going to have again. How could that be in a party that had a feminist heading it, Mr. Trudeau, for 10 years? How's that possible? How's it possible?
A lot of factors at play here, Brian, and I know we talk about this all the time. Is there going to be an election? And I know our readers are asking you, what's happening, Brian? What is the plan? It's difficult to game it out because of the events that are going to unfold. Again,
Mhm.
right around the time there's a new Liberal leader and a new prime minister, there is going to be that 30-day clock is going to be up with respect to the tariffs. We don't know what's going to happen. The polls will change. Campaigns matter, as you always remind us.
Yep.
And these things are all factors that it almost makes it impossible to determine what the outcome could be or what will unfold in the next month and a half.
Well, my three rules, voters are fickle, polls can change, campaigns matter. What do I think will happen? I think that Mark Carney's going to win the Liberal leadership. I think he's going to declare that there's a national emergency, that the NDP needs to support the Liberal government, which Jagmeet Singh will do. And then Carney and the Liberals, I've heard it from Liberals already. There are people excited at the idea of Carney governing for as long as possible, perhaps to September 2026, if
Yeah,
they can, because
the
despite the fixed
constitutional.
election date law,
Yep, yep.
constitutionally, he can go that far if they can find a willing dance partner. They want him in as long as possible, is my view, so that people get used to this guy that looks like one of the Darrens from Bewitched being the new prime minister, and they'll just elect him because he's from central casting and he's an economist, and he will be the savior of Canada. That's what they're hoping for.
Well, there you go, Canada. It doesn't sound like there's going to be an election anytime soon, but the Liberals will certainly have their new leader. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. So like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to the torontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.